Hi, everyone. I'm Gretchen Hackmeister, the Executive Director of the Hotchkiss Library of Sharon. On behalf of the staff and board, welcome, everyone. We are so excited to offer our first off-site virtual event, a live cooking demonstration. First, a reminder, we have a really large number of participants today, potentially close to 200 people. So you've all been muted for the duration of this meeting. Please type your questions in the chat. We certainly encourage them, and I will be asking Robert questions throughout and after his demonstration. If you registered by 4 p.m. on Friday, you should have received this recipe in the email. If you haven't, there are hard copies available in the next few days, both at the restaurant and at our library. And Holly has just posted a link to this in Google Drive, and you can download it right now to take a look at it as we cook. Special thanks to a few people today. Holly Nelson, my terrific colleague, is back at the library managing the Zoom behind the scenes. And Chris is also helping her, so thank you both. And Jonathan Doster deserves a huge thanks today. He's a special friend of the library and a photographer here in Sharon, and he's behind the camera today. We couldn't do it without him. So thank you all for your help. As you know, we are here at Le Gamin in Sharon with its owner and chef, Robert Arbor. We are all so fortunate that he decided to open the cafe almost a year ago in the midst of that dark, cold, lonely pandemic winter. Things have certainly been better in Sharon ever since. Since the late 1980s, Robert has owned many restaurants in New York City and currently operates a cafe of the same name in Brooklyn. He co-authored a book, Joie de Vivre, Simple French Style for Everyday Living in 2003. We'll show you copies of that book later on. They're available on Amazon. We will hear more about Robert's life and how he ended up as a chef in New York and finally in Sharon throughout the program today. And I should also mention the cafe was named one of Connecticut Magazine's 25 best new restaurants in Connecticut in their January issue. So the cafe will be celebrating its 1-year anniversary in just a couple of weeks. So let's kick off the celebration with this fun demonstration today. Without further ado, let's cook.
Hey, hi, how are you? Nice to see you. Welcome in the kitchen, and thank you for welcoming me into your home. Cheers, Saute. And let's see where we stand here. You want to do? You should have, if you can, have a pot with water in it, just cold, a saute pan of salt, in which you can put some liquid, right? Then you should have your ingredient ready: a chicken, some vegetable for the stock, the mushroom, chicken, some potato, and then the herbs and all the seasoning, oil, butter, and fat. And then the white wine and the red wine.
Hello. I can't wait to see what you're going to be doing here.
Should we start?
We should start. Everybody's ready.
So we start by the potato first, because the potato will be cooking while we'll prepare the rest of the dish, the chicken. So I would prefer Yukon Gold. This is a GPOD Idaho potato. It was washed and washed, and we keep the skin on. We'll cut it in half, and we put the flat side on the cutting board, and then we'll make some wedges, 3 or 4 wedges per side.
You said you like Yukon Gold. Why do you prefer Yukon Gold?
I don't know, they roast better, they firmer, the color is prettier, the texture is better. Those are fine, but it just, Yukon Gold is a good potato to roast like that.
That's a good flavor.
Yes. So voila, and you do that, boom, and you get the thing, you cut in some kind of angle, like about 45.
Cut into 4 wedges.
Yes, about, yeah, if it was a bigger potato, you would do 6. Then you take the olive oil, you drizzle with olive oil.
Is that extra virgin?
Yeah, yes, it should always be extra virgin, right? You got you put the garlic. So I like to crush the garlic a little bit, but you don't have. Even my aunt used to make those potato, and she basically just put the whole cloves of garlic with the skin on, crushed, right?
With
And
the
then
skin still on.
with the skin still on, which is fine. And then actually it's even better because then you can just squeeze it and it makes like a garlic puree. And then you put some thyme,
Roast along.
right?
So
A
you
little
got
bit,
fresh thyme.
yes, a little bit of herb de Provence.
And
Oops,
what's
sorry.
in the, do you make your own herb de Provence? Or
No,
do
we
you,
buy it. We buy
so
it from
what's
a thing.
in there? There's
Uh,
thyme
So
and
thyme,
rosemary?
rosemary, oregano.
oregano. Do you have lavender sometimes?
No. So that's the thing. I think in America they do a lot with lavender.
Yep.
It's not not the thing that I appreciate that much.
Okay.
Just because lavender is so powerful, right? And stuff. Then salt, pepper, as you see. So of course I like always fresh pepper.
Sea
Right.
salt.
Fresh
Sea
ground
salt.
pepper.
Yeah, fresh ground pepper and sea salt. Sea salt. And then I just put my hand into that. And I kind of like mix it together to coat the potato nicely with the thing. And then I would reorganize it a little bit so they all in the same level. So of course this is, you would count at about, let's pretend you have a meal with an appetizer and a dessert. You would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wedges, 6 wedges per
Per
serving.
person?
Yeah,
Okay.
4 to 6, right?
Okay. So
So
half
that
a
will
potato
give you,
or a
yeah,
little less. per
per
person.
per serving, right?
Great.
And then we are just going to put those potatoes in the oven. All right, which is here. The oven is about, for this one is 325, right? At home, I guess if it was a convection at home, you would put it like 350, 375. The potato should take about 30 to 40 minutes, but I would check them every 20 minutes because maybe you want to flip them around and stuff like that, right?
Great.
So then we have our chicken. So farm chicken, better, right? Of course, fresh, nice. Any breed is good, right?
Any type? Okay.
Sussex, Cornish horse, and everything. But there is some kind of a label called Label Rouge. I think it was created in France way back,
Okay.
and it was a certification that the chicken was raised with some kind of like
Humanely raised.
humanely-
Okay.
But most important, also the feed that was given to the
Oh,
chicken
okay.
because that's what we're going to eat.
Do you prefer organic chicken at home
Yeah,
or
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
naturally raised?
Yeah,
Okay.
naturally raised. I
Okay.
mean, no hormone or stuff. And if there's a whole thing. It's a complicated debate about the, cage-free, pasture, blah,
And
blah,
those
blah,
American
and
chickens
everything.
that they make so big.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
not even in the conversation,
Right.
right? So anyway, the chicken. So I like before I cut the chicken. This is cut without the bone, so we'll take the breast out of the bone and we'll cut the leg and everything. I like to press it and open the thing, and then you take the knife and you cut here, right? So you see, it's fairly easy to follow, right? There is no flesh here, and you go around. Then you can take the chicken and you would crack the joint here and push the muscle here. This is an important part that you don't want to miss. It's said to be the most delicious part of the chicken. It's a bit tricky, right? So you go like that, and you go to the joint and you follow to have it. And there you have the drumstick and the thigh, right? I reserve it. I do the same thing on the other side. Voila, right? And then I crack the joint. I go around the soliless. I don't know what they call that in English. We call that soliless. It's okay. All right. And then I cut my little tip here,
Cut off the
and I
tip
cut that for I stock my
for the
fond,
stock
right?
to add flavor
Which
to the
is,
stock.
yeah, to add flavor to the stock. And okay, now I have the two breasts, right, and the wing. So that would be the upper side with the wing, the haut cul, the haut l'aile, and then the breast supreme, right? So there is a little cartilage here. I will follow that.
You're following the cartilage.
Yes,
Okay.
on top, right?
Yep.
and you go like that, and you like it, and then here there is that wishbone stuff. The wishbone is a little bit of a problem. It's a very strong bone. So this is something that we like to take out. And this one, see, well, we won't have a wish because I'm allergic.
In France, do they use the wishbone also to make a wish?
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So, and then you would, with the tip of the knife, right, you would go along the bone and kind of scrape, right? So, because we are not running into a competition, it doesn't really matter, but in theory, it should be perfectly flat, n'est-ce pas?
Okay.
There should be no knife mark. And see, you go around the thing, cut the membrane, and just go scraping the bone. So I have a movement where my knife is slightly going against the bone.
Okay.
Right? And then here I crack the joint and I go, that's the tough part, and I go in the joint, and here I have the breast, right, with the wing top.
So you have the breast
And
and
the
the wing
wing,
together.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I do the same thing on that side. Tricky bit of surgery here.
Somebody texted in that they've heard that the little nugget on the back of the chicken is called the oyster.
Oh, oyster.
Shaped a bit like an oyster.
Oh, it makes sense, yeah. And it is one of the delicacy, right? So, I have to confess something here, but that's because we're live, right? The chicken is still frozen,
Oh.
but that's okay. So then I go here and I crack and I go to the joint. Sometimes it doesn't. Wow. All right. So
Great.
I have those parts here and I have just the skin and I put the two breasts, the leg and the drumstick and the thing. Here is the carcass. I'm going to keep it whole, right?
Yeah.
And now I am going to take my vegetable.
Getting everything ready for the stock.
Yeah, now we're going to make the stock, the little chicken broth, which is a great thing to do because basically you can use that when we use it here for the base of our sauce, right? But it's basically for anything. It's a chicken stock, so a base for soup, a base for a lot of things. That's why it's kind of nice. Even if you eat a roast cooked chicken, it's kind of nice to keep the bone after, and you can always use them and for the base of your soup or stock, and it's everything. Here I have a carrot, basic carrot. So same thing. All those things are fun to grow too, by the way, right? So why not? And then I cut it in half, and then I just do little thing. That would be called a mirepoix. So that's the type of cut. Here is the celery, a celery branch. Well, it's for stock, right? So we're not going to make anything precise. I just cut slice. I didn't eat it, a little chunk, right? And then the leek. So leek is always tricky stuff. So to clean it because there might be some sand inside and everything, right? So I've seen a lot of time where people cut them and then there is that. I like to, normally I would trim the hair, right? I cut the root together so it stays together. And then I don't go all the way to the end, right? I go right here and I go straight like that. And then I flip it on the other half and I do the same thing. Like that, voila. And then I go and then you see it stays together. So then I'll go under the faucet, right? Cold water under the faucet. And then I can go into the different leaf, to really clean it, go around, and then I set it to dry it. Yeah, the beautiful little thing, right? Hello. and then I give it, things like that, right? Now I'm going to turn the fire under the pot of hot water here, right? And I'm putting this in there.
Someone has asked for there if they could use onions instead of leek.
Yeah, so I'm going to put an onion too, but you can, yeah. It just, yes, you can basically, I mean, in, the base vegetable, right, for a stock is a leek, celery, onion, and then so then I cut my onion in half, right? And then I cut here, and then I cut it here, and then I peel, right? So what I should have here that I didn't have, but I have it up here, is I always like to have a bowl, right, on my work table where I can put, yeah, that's it. So I save, it's like the little trash on the thing for the compost, yes. Or in a restaurant, it can also be used for stock and stew. Yep. So the onion, I have a half onion here. I would do an incision, I guess that's across, right? You know, like that, right? But still holding. And then one, to decide what size my little onion stuff is going to be on that side, and then on that side. And then you should have those little squares, right?
Yep, okay. Small chunks or small squares.
So if you were to do a salad or whatever, right, you can put onion like that, and then I'll take that and I put that in the stock, right? And then I put a little bit of thyme, fresh thyme, and a little bit of parsley.
If you don't have fresh herbs when you want to do this, can you use dried herbs?
Yeah, the dry and the Provence leaf. Yeah, that's fine. And then I'll put my chicken bone in there, my carcass, right? And this is gonna go. Will get to a boil. And when it boils, we can just shut it off and let it sit here. Okay. So we have that. That's going nicely. We put that, and that's it. The potato at the oven. So now we can start the chicken recipe, right? So I have my breast. I am going to cut about here, right? So I have the little nice fat with some of the wing, and I have the tip of the thing. Just because it's smaller, more portion. People can have, your guests can have a little bit of that, a little bit of that. And then I like to separate my drumstick from the thigh. Okay. So there is a joint in there. The trick of cutting a chicken is to go, so you wouldn't do that but now you see the knuckle, right? Yep. So this is here, right?
Cut on that side of the knuckle?
Yeah, well, like that. Voila, and it goes pretty smoothly, right?
Yes.
Like that, right? So you can see it's about 45 degrees angle, right? So we go like that, right? Then you go about like that, and you get it.
So how many pieces do you have?
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 pieces.
Yes.
So now I have my sautés. So I like that dish because I have the fire full on, right, under that. I like that kind of dish because first they're easy to make in that they're not very, there's not a lot of things that you can really mess up, right? So no risk. And then also, well, in this instance, we're making a mushroom and cream, but at some point you can do tomato paste and cream and peppers and onions, so it becomes a different dish. You can put paprika in it. Fricassee is a very popular technique of cooking, especially chicken.
You can customize it with different seasonings.
Yes, so it goes. You can find it almost everywhere in the world. That particular technique of things, just the different spices.
Okay.
Change. So now that's starting to get hot. So add some butter, right? Because we like butter. And then
tell us about the pan and what kind of pan do you use at home?
So pan is always, that's the thing. If you're cooking, you should always have. I mean, pan is an important tools, right? And what you want is you want a pan with you want a pan with a thick bottom. You want, thick bottom. Technically stainless steel and copper because the heat diffuse and all. Cast iron is very good. Now we talk about that a little bit later. I have salt inside.
Closer. So there's been some comments, it's hard to hear Robert when he turns away.
Oh yeah, when I turn, yeah. So here I am seasoning the chicken, skin side first, just because you want to put the skin side first on in the fat, because the skin kind of like tied up, so you keep your meat together, right? So you see my butter is turning. I'm putting the thigh, I put it, and the pan, and I kind of like stuff, right? The leg, another thigh, the wing, and another thing like that. The tip of the thing, right? This, by the way, the neck and the tip, the neck and the tip, I can put it in the stock, right?
The neck and the tip also.
Yeah. Now I have that. I'm going to season the other side, right? Thing, pepper. I think that.
I'm gonna switch sides next.
Very nice. Right, so now we are like, so we're searing. We want a high fire. We do want some fat in there. And we have a tongue, which is a wonderful tool. And so we don't want to touch it, right? We don't want to touch it. We want to let it go, and we want everything that's on the fire.
You're not gonna grab
No,
it.
we don't
Instead,
want to grab
you
it.
move
I
around.
know it's very tempting, but
Yeah,
we don't want to
that's
do
what I
that.
always
Yeah.
want to do, because you want to
Yeah.
make sure you don't
It's
burn
an
it.
important thing actually, cooking, not to touch stuff and let time do stuff. Time is very important. Both ways, time is important to stop it when it needs to be stopped, and it's important to let it go and take its time, because that's when all the magic of the flavor and the cooking, the reduction and everything happens. But because see now, so note, some people would say we don't want to use a non-stick pan, right? Because non-stick pan is not very favorable for little caramelization and the color that we get, which is where all the taste here, right? So some folks probably will say, "Oh, my pan always sticking." Well, it's a bad pan. It's a bad quality pan, or it's not clean, or you didn't wait until it was hot enough to put your food in there. You can, because of the metal. What happens, when you get some metal inside, right? So that's what makes it right.
So be patient and let your pan get
Yeah.
very hot.
Yeah.
And what about a cast iron?
Yeah.
Would that work as well?
Yeah, that was good. Cast iron is perfect. I mean, we love cast iron cooking because it goes well with all that. The heat is well spread and everything. So now I'm still leaving that here like that. I can get my little mushroom ready. So I have the mushroom, right? I take the skin off. And then you see I can
Can you use any kind of mushrooms you might have at home for this
yeah,
recipe?
yeah.
Okay.
I got some shiitake. I mean, this is the base recipe. There's a lot of morels here, right? Morels, yeah, beautiful morels. So that's the perfect base recipe for the poulet morille, which is the chicken morel. And instead of putting the shiitake, you would use morel.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna switch sides. I was told it sounds better over here.
Okay, we like the sound to be good. And then, so I do that, right? Okay, and then I am going to, I'm going to now check the chicken, see, get it like some nice color. So those little parts, remember that just the searing, we're not cooking it here. We're just searing it, make sure it gets color. I would reduce the fire a little bit, which I can do when I see that my oil is getting super warm and smoky, right?
Reduce the flame
Yeah, you can reduce the flame a little bit. And then you finish
Smells
searing.
really good in here.
You finish searing, right? Okay, so then I have my fat, which I am going to put. Remember, you shouldn't put your fat in your sewer.
Correct, or in your septic tank, really bad.
So now, look here, look here. I have all the cooking residue, right? And I'm still at my fire. I put my fire a little bit higher, right? And I let that caramelize a little bit.
Okay,
And
so
then
the fire is
I'll
going
put some-
to allow it to caramelize a little bit.
Yeah, I'll put some white wine, right? How about the glass? You can see that. So white, but why? Because we're doing mushroom cream, and that's kind of traditional.
Right, okay.
You know, some people could deglaze with brandy, maybe. You know, you could deglaze with some vermouth. You could deglaze some. At that point, I put back my chicken in there, right, with everything else. And now, so now look, we have our stock that's boiling, right?
So you were saying you can deglaze with different liquids.
Different
So,
liquids,
white
and,
wine,
and also, you know, for the folks that don't want any alcohol or whatever, no, the alcohol will burn,
Yeah.
so there won't be any alcohol in it. But you can do it with water.
just water
Yeah,
to
yeah,
deglaze.
Plain
Okay,
with water.
great. Starting
I
to
mean, that's
smell
the-
really good.
You know, that's the good thing about cooking, right? Versus pastry, for example. It's a free. You can do a lot of. There's lots of freedom.
You don't
So
want
now the
great.
white wine reduce and everything, and I'm gonna go get the strainer, right? Voilà, strainer, en garde. And then I have my stock now. But we're doing that. It's fast at home. You can you after the stock should be boiling a little bit more, right?
How long would you recommend boiling the stuff?
We should be bring to a boil, which is almost here. So
Okay. And then should
Right.
it continue to boil or
so
just
then you
that's
can
enough?
reduce it a little bit, but normally boil, shut it up, let infuse, and the infusion should be fast enough. Remember, it's a white stock, fond blanc. So for no color, just for flavor. In bone, we are not roasting. There is no specific flavor in it, and so forth. Now, if you were doing an Asian dish, for example, in this you can add lemongrass, you can add, you know, Thai basil or what. So,
Okay.
and then instead of using cream, now I'm going to pour some of the stock in there because otherwise, right?
Love this step.
And
that you
then-
strain it right
yeah.
into the pan. I've never
And
done
then I put back the vegetable in there, right? Now, voila.
that. You turned off the
Okay.
stock.
Now it's not I turn off the stock, right? Because we're done here. And then look, you see, I don't have water all the way to the top. Huh? Fricassee is a cooking technique, a bit like braisé, which is, you know, some caesar and then liquid,
Okay.
right?
So searing, braising, and then liquid for fricassee.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so that's it for now.
Okay.
Now we're going to reduce that. We don't want to cover it. We bring it to a boil, and then we're going to bring it to a gentle, like simmer. It's going to mijoter.
So how long will
That's
that
a
simmer,
nice-
do you think?
How long we're gonna make it simmer? About 20 minutes. I would
20
say
minutes of
15
simmering.
15 simmer,
15 to
and
20.
then we'll finish it.
Okay, great.
So we're good. Then we can have more wine.
Okay. We get a little
We can
break.
have question if you have a question.
Okay.
Good time to
Should we go out
answer
there?
that. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna reduce here. It's boiling now. So that's a lot of boiling, right? So then I reduce my fire. And by the way, now, see when you do a dish like that, I haven't tried it, but the induction stove.
An
Right.
induction?
When induction is great for those kind of things, because basically you tune the temperature you want it at,
Okay.
and it's just going to stay steady,
And you know that
right?
it will stay
And
there.
then it will like stop. When you have a live fire like that, you have to adjust it.
Test it.
I mean,
Yes,
this is,
check on it. and
this
watch
is
it.
nice, right?
Smells delicious.
Robert,
Yes, sir.
there's a question about the mushrooms not being added yet.
No, so the mushroom are here. I should have put the stem in the stock, which I'm going to do, right? Because I'll use the stock later. The mushroom I add at the end because they don't take that long to cook. The flavor will be there, and that's just when you put it. Just like if I would also, for example, I could put the carrot in there. I could put carrot. At that point, I would cut my carrot, or I would have baby carrot. So I would have two options. I could put them separately and serve them separately, or I could do like a rustic dish, paysan style, where I would put my carrot, my onion, my celery in the dish. But for that, I would have to do it really time-wise because you don't want, you see, the chicken takes longer than the carrot to cook and so forth. So you have to kind of think about all
Things
that.
don't get too
Yeah,
mushy,
because
and you have a
otherwise-
nice texture.
Exactly.
Okay,
All right. How far you are?
all right.
Okay.
Jonathan, can you ask them to send their questions to us now?
Larry and Nancy Moskowitz, we're receiving your questions now, and anybody else.
Please send your questions to us. Thank you. So I can start off with a few questions.
What a nice time.
What kind of food did you grow up with in France, Robert?
Oh, well, the food that people fancy here, I guess. Roast chicken.
The classic sort of
Yeah, the
comfort food.
classic. I mean, I guess we didn't have any escargot or stuff like that. Although, yeah, my grandmother used to do little escargot. Those little grays, okay, but yeah, the classic bistro food, right? Omelette, string beans, asparagus, leek vinegar, and so forth.
We have a question asking if you use clarified butter.
Sometimes,
Okay.
yes, for some thing,
But
but I
for
like.
this recipe, would you use that
No,
or not?
for cooking like that at home, general cooking, if the recipe doesn't call for it, I wouldn't use it. I would just use pure nice whole butter.
Great. And can you tell us how did you end up coming to New York from France? You went to a few places in between, I know.
So, yeah,
right?
it's a long trip
You traveled.
story, but basically I was traveling the world. I was living in Hong Kong and I met my wife in Hong Kong and she was from New York. So that's why I
So you
lived in
went to
New
New
York. So yeah, of course.
And
I
did
went
you
to
know-
visit my-
Did you know you would work in the restaurant business, or was that something you decided when you got to New York?
No, that was decided when I got to New York. Actually, I was missing little aspect of French life, which was mainly sitting at a cafe and having an espresso, right? And at the time, late 80s, didn't really exist. Cup of coffee in a diner, espresso, at the Carlisle or what so. But you couldn't really go Starbucks, right? No little coffee spot and everything. And I'm like, wow, let's do that.
I remember an Italian cafe, Figaro.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Figaro and
In the
yes, so
village.
on like Google Street, Figaro, Cafe Dente, yeah,
Yes.
they were those things. But still, it was very Americanized also. It wasn't like what you would have in Europe, in France.
We have a couple more questions. Do you sharpen your own knives?
Sure.
Do you have any
Yeah.
advice on sharpening knives at home?
Well, no, I mean, a good stone, take your time always. And I mean, you just gotta practice and do a nice technique, right? Because if you do it wrong, less angle, more angle, then you just lose the knife.
And
YouTube has good stuff.
someone asked.
Jacques
this-
Pepper has good stuff.
Ah.
Actually, yeah, Jacques is he's a very good teacher for this thing.
Someone asked, Diane asked, how large was the chicken? How many pounds for this recipe, or any size chicken?
Yeah, well, around 2 pounds, right?
2 pounds?
2 pounds, 2.5. Then again, if you have a large chicken, you'll have leftover. this should be good for 4 people. So
Someone asks if you know Jacques Pepin.
indeed.
You do.
Yeah,
He lives in
he's
Connecticut
actually-
also,
he
right,
lives
in
in
Madison?
Madison.
Yep.
Yeah, I did so. I didn't learn how to cook in France, right? I had to cook in New York. I went to the French Culinary Institute, which is now non-existent anymore.
Oh, really?
But the
Didn't know that.
first chef I encountered the first day of school was Jacques Pepin, and I
Wow.
didn't know who Jacques Pepin was really, except that he had a chef jacket with his name, of course, and tons of different stuff written in gold embroidery. And I was like, wow, how do you get that right? And he says, you work hard.
You wanted one of those.
work
You
on-
wanted the gold
Right,
embroidery
the
on your
gold
jacket.
embroidery. But
Wow.
yeah, no, Jacques, Chef Pepin has always been a great support and inspiration. Yeah.
And he's still cooking, right?
He's still cooking,
I have
yeah.
a bunch of his books at home.
Yeah.
What is your favorite cuisine to cook and to eat besides French cuisine?
Well, to eat.
Are they different?
No, well, because I like Vietnamese, right? Vietnamese cooking. My wife being Vietnamese, and she cooks it, and I eat it, so that's cool. Thanks. And then Italian, Middle East. I'll try.
You like
a bit
all
of
kinds?
everything. Yeah, I'll try a bit of everything. I like all kinds. I would tend to prefer, wood burning grill. I like outdoor cooking and cream stew.
So I know you have a small farm here in Sharon that you bought when you came to town. So what are your plans? I know you're growing some things
Yeah.
there. Are you
Well,
planning
tomato, easy
tomatoes
stuff. Yeah, well, we
to
get tomato
incorporate
last-
here?
Yeah, which we use all year, all summer, all last summer. We use the tomato that we grew, that's just a fantastic experience to grow it, harvest it, and then cook it and see the folks here eat it. It just it makes it really special.
The same day?
The
that you
same thing,
baked
yeah,
it,
yeah,
right?
oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, which is very good.
Robert,
Yes.
Larry Moskowitz is curious,
Hey,
the
Larry.
dish. He's a frequent flyer. The dish you're creating in the kitchen, will that be on your menu at any point?
It is sometime. I know it's on the menu at the place in Greenpoint, at the Le Gamin Greenpoint. We did do it as a special here. Yeah.
And Holly asks, do you cook differently for American people than you would if you had a restaurant full of French people you're visiting?
No.
No,
Oh, no.
exactly the
not.
same.
I would
folks,
even
you
cook
don't have
even I would cook even better for the American.
Even better for us. Thank you. And Randy asks why you named your restaurants Le Gamin.
Oh wow, that's a long one. Yeah, so when I decided to open a little place, right? I was scouting New York, downtown, Soho, the West Village. The idea was to recreate a little cafe that one could find in France, right? In a little village in France. So I was looking for one of those typical New York front store with the wood frame and the door in the center. And while strolling on McDougal Street between Houston and Prince, I saw that store. Looks empty. I walk to the window, I look inside by putting my things, and then on the window sill, I see a business card that says for rent. I mean, it couldn't have been written smaller. Anyway, I call the number, I go to the payphone. This is 1991. I go to the payphone at the corner of King and McDougal. I call the number, which I had written on my hand, and a gentleman answers. And he just happened to be French. His name is Bruno. And he says, okay, I come down. And I open the door and I show you the place. And Bruno comes down and he's barefoot. He's wearing a jean and one of those leather perfecto jacket with nothing under. Now, he's also has what appear to be trace of stupefacient under his nostril, and he's very excited and shiny, right? He opens the door and he shows me the store. It's a very tiny store, square, very straightforward. And he asked me what I want to do. And I said, well, I would like to open a little cafe to serve very light food, but mainly coffee and what we call limonade, so non-alcoholic drink. And he says, "Oh, that's a funny coincidence. Come upstairs, I show you something." So we go upstairs to his apartment, right? And on his computer, big computer, he puts a floppy disk, and he has a story, a little cartoon of a French guy that arrives in New York and opens a restaurant called, well, actually a French salad bar called Le Gamin de Paris. Anyway, to cut to the stretch, we say bye-bye. He says, "I got your information. I'll talk to my boss, the landlord." Bruno was the super. And I'll get back to you. And I call, and then time goes. And at one point I call, no answer. One day, out of the blue, there is the phone gets picked up, and there's a deep voice. And I explain, and he says, the gentleman says, "Oh, my name is Isidore, I'm the landlord. But Bruno passed away." But Bruno had OD'd. Bruno was a junkie, typical, and he OD'd. But he had that cartoon called Le Gamin de Paris. So I kept the name. I took the Paris, but I thought the name was a good homage to him. Yeah. And that was it. And the rest is history.
How long were you at that location?
15 years. Yeah, 12 years, 15 years, from 1992 to 2005 or something like that.
Your son Lucien is also a chef,
Mhm.
and did he train in France, or
Yeah.
did you teach him?
No, well, both the kid, even Henri, who's not in the business anymore, but both the kid spent time, when they were young, when they were children. They worked with me in the restaurant, we always cooked at home and stuff like that, right? And I guess Lucien was going to NYU, and he didn't really, that wasn't his stuff, right? So he went to do a little stay in France at one of our French restaurants, Le Drouin in Paris. And Antoine, the chef owner of the time, took him, and Lucien said, "I'm going to stay, and I'm going to cook."
So how long was he there?
"Well, you talk to your mother." And then Antoine told us that he was good, he liked it, and he should continue. That was very good, but he should go to a cooking school.
Okay.
So he went to the Institut Paul Bocuse in Lyon, and he did that for whatever, 2 years.
Okay.
And then he continued working. Then he came back to New York. He did some opening. I remember Robuchon, the opening of Robuchon. He worked in some kitchen in the city. And then he went back to France. And luckily, he had a plane ticket for that weekend where they stopped flying between Europe and the US.
Oh, so he
2020.
made that.
Yeah, he made that back. Which then de facto, we ended up working together when we, during the lockdown, when we kept the restaurant in Brooklyn open. And we should go back and see what's going on in the kitchen.
Before we do, this is a little off script. Do you mind if these folks agree with just touching base with your customers? We're zooming for the library, a recipe, and you're here. Are you okay? Okay, just interact if you like.
Right.
What dish did you get?
Hi guys.
I want to compliment the baby for being so quiet. Look at that little.
He
likes the merguez.
Yes, I like the merguez. We like the merguez too. Are you from Sharon?
No,
No?
we're from Danbury.
Oh, Danbury, that's a nice,
and New
right?
York City.
Yeah, we came up from the city.
From where? New York, Brooklyn or New York City?
Manhattan and Queens.
Manhattan and Queens,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
So Lisa
Yeah,
and I
that's
lived in Paris for a year.
All right, bonjour.
Yeah.
Is this a destination? You came here specifically for this?
We came for the Jump Fest.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
the
very
ski
good.
fest.
Yeah,
And
ski fest,
so
This
yeah.
we
was
kind of
also
all,
part of the
you
destiny.
know,
like that.
all congregated as a family for the Jump Fest. And our other son here actually lives in sort of
Falls.
Beacon
Yeah.
Falls,
Right,
Connecticut.
right.
So we all congregated and here we are for dinner after the Jump
Sweet,
Fest.
right?
Yes.
Like, how was the jump fest? Fun?
It was
It was
fun.
great.
It was really fun. Yeah.
Cool.
It
It was
Yeah.
warm today. Good for
Yes,
us,
it's
not
good
good for the
yeah,
jumper.
not just for the jumper. And luckily it didn't rain.
Are you
We
a
were
jumper?
supposed to do
It's
that.
coming
What
close.
cool.
Bye.
And nice to see you. Very much like what we do in the store.
Okay.
Bon
Thank you.
appétit.
Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so you can see, hey, here we back. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna go here. Oh, look at that. Perfect. Right. I
Oh,
would say
yum.
the garlic is not that perfect, but it's okay.
Oh, delicious.
Yeah, well, okay, yeah. But so what? That's the patate Nicole, right? So they're nice and
Excellent.
crispy, kind of oven fries. Voila,
They look great.
right?
Smell
So we
really
can
good, too.
keep that in the, we reserve that. Now, let's go back to our little dish here. So look, you can see it kind of reduced half, right? Now, I'm gonna go grab a couple of spoons because
Shout out to the library.
All right, library, yay. We get to taste in a minute. We're very excited. It smells really good. I'm sorry all of you at home cannot smell the wonderful scents we're smelling here in
How-
the kitchen.
How would you describe that scent, that fragrance?
It's very deep, rich.
I'm smelling a little vino even, just a
Yeah.
hint of the.
Yep, delicious.
so there is a, that's important, right? A cooking, you should always hear you good. A cooking, you should always taste because that's when we can add salt and stuff like that. So bear in mind, it's always hot. That's a glass of cream. Yeah, nice. Yeah,
Nice.
that's the base, right? It's not
Delicious.
finished, it's the base.
Delicious.
So now I will remove the chicken, right, from the dish, put it on a plate. The chicken is cooked, right? No doubt. Right? So I remove the chicken.
So it's fully cooked now.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's ready cooked, yeah.
Yep.
But I leave it on the side. I bring my fire to maximum. I reduce a little bit at that point. Here, I can add a little bit of salt, right? Because it needed some salt, right? And then I'll give it a little twist of pepper. Not too much pepper, right? Because it infuses. You know, pepper has a tendency to
Very
infuse,
strong.
so then it gets stronger.
Yep.
And then I have the herb de Provence, and why not a little bit of herb de Provence in there, right? I can't believe I forget what's the herb de Provence blend mix. Okay, here, right? And then here, I can have a spoon. So I have a heavy cream, but creme fraiche could do it, right?
Okay.
Heavy cream about the glass, right? Why not?
Is it about a cup?
Little
less
yeah,
than a
little
cup?
bit less than a cup. A cup
Okay.
would do it. Anything then I think. Right, and then I'm gonna bring that back to a boil. I kind of scrape delicately the bottom, right?
Get up all those tasty.
Yeah, by
little
the way,
bits.
I go back to the pan stuff, if I may open a parenthesis. I would avoid aluminium.
No aluminum.
Well, I would just avoid aluminium dishes because there is a very soft metal. So if you use another metal spoon, you might
Scratch
scratch a
it.
little bit, you know, a spatula. So you see now the cream is boiling, right? Let's taste again. It's nice, very nice. Yeah, yeah. You want it to be a little bit strong, but kind of elevating with the seed. So now it's reducing again, and then I put the chicken.
Chicken goes back into the cream
Yeah.
sauce now.
And see those, very, very important too. You can put them back in there, right?
That sauce can go back.
Yeah, yeah, that sauce, everything goes back. No waste. Exactly. And then we're good, right? Then you reduce it a little bit more. Basically, we're done.
All right.
Voila.
Do we
Well,
bring
what about the mushrooms?
in?
I went the mushroom, you're right. It is a mushroom. So the mushroom, you cut, right? Easy. If they were button mushroom, you would cut, button mushroom, you would
Yes.
cut them in quarter, for example.
Quarter of button
Yes,
mushrooms.
because sliced button mushroom are a little bit too thin. So now that we thought of that you reminded me about the mushroom, you should add the mushroom before you put like a chicken in there,
Okay,
right?
in the cream before the chicken.
Well, in the cream before, just right before the
For how
chicken.
long? Just right before?
Yeah, just right before. They're very, you want them, you don't want them to be cooked too much. You don't want them to be mushy too much. You want them to have a bite, right?
Right.
Okay?
You have a message from your son, Henri.
Yeah, well,
Hi,
Hey, Henri,
He
salut,
says
ça-
hi,
salut,
Bob.
Henri, salut, ça va?
and there's a question from Leonard. If you have a food memory, what is your Madeleine Dupuis? So something like out of Proust, when you eat that takes you back to your childhood.
Oh, that happened a lot, though. That happened a lot, but I must say, yeah, it happened a lot. It
Lots of
depends where I
things.
am. Yeah, lots of different things. There is one particular thing, though. Maybe it's a veal, actually a veal fricassee with cream sauce that we used to eat during vacation in the Schwarzwald, in Germany, the Black Forest.
Did you remember that?
Yeah, that I remember that. And it's a cream and it's an easy, yeah.
You remember some
But
similar to
more-
this?
It's funny, and then also I would say a bouillabaisse type dish that kind of remind me. Sometimes I have it, and then I get transported from the Mediterranean shore, right?
That's a
But-
good one.
I would say maybe I'm more, I have more Madeleine de Proust to smell than to mouth.
Through a scent.
Yeah,
you
through a
remember
scent,
it.
yeah.
Great.
Yeah, yeah.
And Bob asked if you're gonna do anything with the vegetables in the stock, or you get
No,
rid of
so-
those there.
No. So these, right, I would take the bone, and then you could puree it, and then you have some kind of vegetable soup, and then I would drink it, and that keeps you healthy. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yep.
right.
How long does that stay in that state? But flames up what?
The flame is
Pretty
hot. The flame is hot, and you want to reduce the thing. So basically, what you are trying to see here, you don't want it to be too liquid, right? So some traditional would say that's a bit too liquid, right? It should be a little bit more onctuous. It should nappe. Nappe, basically, you take the back of the spoon
Oh, and it
and
sticks,
you
right?
stick like that, and you make a line like that, right? Well, that's a little bit liquid. But this is cuisine ménagère, right? Cuisine à la maison. So the taste is important, the look is nice. It doesn't need to be perfectly shiny, doesn't need, we're not running a concours. And then at home, personally, the least manipulation, the least stuff you dirty, and the least like that, the better it is.
Easiest.
So I'll get my thickness, not sickness, my thickness by reduction. And that's good because also by reducing, you concentrate the flavor, intensify the taste and everything.
So you're reducing it about by half?
Yeah,
in
but
the end?
not
You
even,
think? Not even a half?
no,
Okay.
like a quarter, but it's almost ready. To me, it's kind of ready now, right? Look, the cream is good. It's homogenized, right? It's nice and it's not breaking.
You offer some to the viewers?
You taste. Blow on it because it's hot. It's hot. Yeah, good to go. I
Nice.
shut the fire off.
Do
Right?
we want to retire to continue talking, or are we good?
Sure.
Well, it's
So we're for the
Are there more
last few
questions?
minutes, just.
Good,
ask,
man. Thanks. That was fun. So that's it. The part of cooking is kind of a. Right?
If there are last few
I'm right
questions.
behind.
We love the question. Hey, thanks. That was really fun. I know we're not completely finished, but thank you very much.
Last chance for questions. Any other tips or questions for Robert or tips on the kitchen? Do you have advice for home cooking? If there's one piece of advice you would give people?
Well, choose the right ingredient, especially home cooking. Always, care for your ingredient. I would say, even I know sometimes it's expensive, but it's important. It's the food, it's your fuel, it's what you eat. So that's nice. And then time, and don't challenge yourself too much.
Well, this is a good place to start, I think. Somebody has asked, how would you plate this dish?
Well, if it was at home, I would take a big platter, right?
Mhm.
A deep deep platter because they sauce.
Right.
And I would put it in the center.
Okay.
Maybe I would take some, if I have extra parsley or some herbs, I would chop it and put it on top to give it. And then I would put the potato on the separate platter. Yeah.
And then serve each of your
And
guests.
serve, and then each guest would be like family style, right? I
Right.
thought. Now, if I was to plate it on a plate, I would take a piece of the dark meat, so whether a drumstick or the thigh, and a piece of the white meat. So every guest has one meat, one dark, one white, right? And then I would put that on the plate. I would put sauce on top, and then I would put the potato on the side.
Great. Holly's asking if you have any new items for your spring menu we can look forward to. Anything you're planning for the spring?
Nothing I can discuss.
Nothing yet.
Spring is still a long time.
It's still a ways away. The grandpa's
Yeah.
son.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Oh, someone said, do you salt and pepper before sauteing?
Yes, I did.
You
I did skin
Right.
side first,
Right.
and then I do one side on the plate, right? And that side, and then I put it in my pan with the hot butter. The side I season, and so I season in the pan the other side that I didn't season on the chemical.
Somebody with the initials HJM said they cooked along and it was really fun.
Oh,
And they say merci. Betty says she's
Send us picture.
Betty says she's a hungry hippo right now. Can't wait. Everybody's hungry. So I will just add, if there are no more questions, my husband told me he looked up fricassee in his French dictionary.
Right.
And he said in the early 20th century, it took on the meaning of a big kiss or a hug also
Oh,
in French. So we thought maybe that was a good connection for Valentine's Day.
We like a big
And
kiss.
if you haven't cooked along today, maybe you can cook along for your Valentine on Monday. And we would like to thank everyone who was here and thank Jonathan especially for holding
Thank you.
the
Holding the camera.
camera the whole time. He did a great job and he didn't get to taste anything. So maybe we should feed
Yeah,
him
we'll
now.
feed him.
We have to feed him right away. And if you did cook along, or when you finally do cook this recipe, please take a picture of your final creation and post it on our social media with hashtag Le Gamin and Hotchkiss Library of Sharon. So thank you.
Thank you. We need to cheer one last time. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
everyone.
Ding. Ding.
Thank you, merci.
Merci beaucoup and bon appétit. Cheers. Santé.